All right, so hi everybody. My name is Abhay Agarwal. I'm with Improving. We're an engineering consultancy based in the United States, but with offices in Canada and Mexico. We're a 1,000 plus person organization that does everything from training in agile methodologies to development and engineering work. So I'm here to talk a little bit about an agile methodology that we've designed and developed here through Improving that's designed around artificial intelligence technologies. And I'm going to show you and describe to you how agile methodologies need to evolve in response to artificial intelligence. So we've named our agile methodology Lingua Franca. And so I'm going to go through sort of the motivations behind this work with you and then describe how it works. So I'm part of Improving's Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence. I'm also a lecturer at the Stanford Design School and a member of the Stanford Human-Centered AI Institute. Prior to that, I was an AI research fellow at Microsoft Research with a master's in design from Stanford and a bachelor's in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley. So I feel that I have a sort of a basis in AI research and I understand how the field works from that perspective. But as I've moved closer to the design field and sort of further in the business world, I've developed a thesis about why AI research tends to stall in larger organizations and how we can improve that for sort of the benefit of this work. So if you have sort of any AI work in your own organization that you want to get started or that hasn't made the business impact that you have wanted it to, or you're struggling to overcome certain technical barriers, I would really encourage you to speak with us, schedule a discussion with me or any of the other improvers that are here today. And we would love to help you sort of think through some of these challenges and how you might be able to overcome it with Lingua Franca. So the big question here is, why do we need yet another AI methodology, or sorry, agile methodology for AI? So what is it about AI that necessitates a rethinking of agile techniques? I mean, we already have a world in which folks have received training in agile methodologies from Scrum to Kanban. And so, the question should persist as to why AI requires us to evolve that. So I'll kind of give you a semi-concise reason why. I think AI fundamentally is actually at odds in many ways with the agile methodologies as we see them today. AI introduces fundamental uncertainties and constraints into technology by introducing these sort of probabilistic machine learning systems that are non-stationary, in which the complexity of the algorithm itself often sort of creates unpredictable consequences or research insights. It also creates technical constraints because there are just certain things that AI is not capable of doing either at all or at the present moment. And so technical teams need to be flexible and capable of overcoming some of those barriers that would not be sort of as unpredictable in the case of developing, for example, technical infrastructure or front-end applications. AI also creates a lot of second-order consequences in certain decisions that you make earlier on. For example, in choosing a particular data set or filtering a data set in a certain way, sort of creates unpredictable later on consequences. And so teams need to be able to improve their ability to be flexible in ways that current agile methodologies seem to not be quite as capable of right now. It's also very hard to prototype, to test, and to scale AI solutions. It's very hard to know in advance whether a certain thing will work. Testing it often requires sort of building the entire tech stack out, and scaling it up requires sort of a great deal of logistics and new technical acumen. AI can create unpredictable user experiences in ways that, for example, a design sprint might not be able to uncover at the outset of a project. For example, in different probabilistic models or credit scoring or other kind of financial tools, there can be odd correlations and consequences to an AI-driven solution. And then, of course, finally, and perhaps most importantly, there's within team asymmetry in terms of capabilities and information. So certain individuals and teams within the greater team, for example, data scientists, might have sort of an unreasonable sway over the business decisions and design decisions that get made, given that they understand some of the technical nuances more than, say, other individuals. And that creates challenges for team where there are just many voices that need to be heard in order for the product to launch successfully, for the team to be successful in delivering value to the stakeholders. So lingua franca is really a movement, an evolution beyond some of these original agile methodologies to improve upon its ability to be flexible in relationship to these new kinds of constraints. So there's three main pillars of lingua franca. There's one, the building of a common language, which really is about allowing the entire team to be able to speak in a way that others can understand when it comes to AI, so that nobody is sort of left behind or thrown under the bus when it comes to using certain terminologies. So there's basically a dictionary of terms and words and principles that has been designed in order to assist teams. So adopting that common terminology is really a big feature of lingua franca. And then there's also this aspect of Bayesian thinking, of working hypothesis, best guess hypothesis, testing-based approach. And I'll show you a little bit about how that works, but it really kind of requires its own sort of process flow in teams. And then lastly, there's this notion of a working group. It's basically teams within teams. And so promoting that notion of working groups rather than this sort of individual contributor-based Kanban style of work is often really helpful, and with AI-based projects, quite crucial. So why the name lingua franca? I'll just kind of quickly give you a sort of overview of why we chose that name. So lingua franca is a term actually for the common language that emerged out of the Mediterranean trade of goods over sort of the 1,000 years between 8900 and 1900. It really actually was its own language. It's actually referring to a real physical spoken language that is sort of the melding of many different languages. And in that way, we feel that lingua franca as an AI agile methodology is about bridging many of these vastly different disciplines of AI research, business, design, etc. So bringing those together is really the key. And I think what lingua franca does best above any other agile methodology. So we published Lingua Franca, this working group that I'm part of called Polytopol, in order to sort of overcome many of these questions. So we started by building this shared language, by creating sort of deep principles and discussions to put everyone on the same page. We created a handbook, which is essentially a methodology with specific steps and easily accessible kind of thinking about what each of those steps means. So adopting this kind of process structure can often really help a team understand what they're trying to build and how. Then we created these 8 different principles of machine learning and artificial intelligence about how to design solutions in order to best meet some of these challenges. So each of these 8 principles comes with its own discussion, images, examples, and also problem statements and questions for teams to work through. So using these kinds of starting points, you can often kind of break through gaps and walls that emerge while building some of this AI technology. And then finally, we developed these 20 different elements, which are basically building blocks of artificial intelligence. These are literally individual pieces, technologies or interaction design paradigms, and putting all these 20 together, or a subset of these 20 together, can really create this kind of human-centered AI that is usable, intuitive, friendly, ethical, and just following some of these kind of models, these modular pieces can help you really strongly build with the fundamentals of great design sort of at your side. So just to kind of go into each of these pieces individually, with Bayesian thinking, the key really is that you're creating a sort of a best guess hypothesis. You're not assuming that that is the sort of truth, but you're conducting a variety of hypothesis tests as part of your work in order to validate that hypothesis and then bring new information and beliefs to the table. And this really is part and parcel of building a technology, because you always want to build a technology in order to answer a certain question, which introduces new questions that then encourage you to build even more technology. So over the course of this kind of thesis, antithesis, synthesis style approach, you actually end up building the solution along the way. Crafting a good hypothesis is key within this Bayesian model. That hypothesis has to be, first of all, opinionated. So it's not just an open-ended problem such as find out why users churn. It's opinionated to say users churn because X. And then it also has to answer a question. So you have to really not just think of it as a task, but you want to actually say, you want to address, why users are behaving a certain way, what the key problem is that users are facing, and it sort of encourages you to actually go ahead and build and prototype that. And then finally, these Bayesian hypotheses are not strictly scientific. And I think a lot of teams actually get mired down in that, especially with AI researchers on the team, because the AI researchers seek to enforce this sort of academic model of statistical significance, et cetera. And when you're thinking about building a product and succeeding at a business challenge, you often don't want to be limited by the need for that level of statistical significance, as long as you're making a good decision based on the information that you have. And then finally, this notion of working groups are designed to be small enough to move quickly and to solve a small problem within the larger framework of the problem. And you work to create kind of this transparency amongst your group and within the group by not sort of having any piece of information or any skill be sort of in its own silo within the organization. So it forces information out of a single location. And so by following these kind of key pieces, you can sort of address many of the challenges of building AI solutions. And of course, the team at Improving is capable of helping you work through many of these problems to train your team, to upskill your team in order to be able to build really key high performance AI technology. Just to give a kind of example of what these hypotheses look like. So this is an example of sort of the board that you at an organization would create and that you'd continue to update over the weeks and months that you're building a solution. So you might start with a problem statement that is sort of encouraging you to build a solution. So the problem statement could be, millennials need a subscription app to buy stylish clothes and matching sets. So supposing you're part of a clothing company and you're using this methodology to build sort of an AI-enabled clothing buying solution. So you've kind of given your best guess at what the solution is. It's a subscription app for millennials for stylish clothes and matching sets. And what you need to do in order to validate that hypothesis is you have to start by addressing some of these underlying sub-hypotheses. So for example, one of the sub-hypotheses might be strictly around AI, that it is possible to build a high quality model from XYZ public shopping data set. So your team would actually develop a working group that goes out and tries to answer that question, tries to build that high quality model, and then come back to the larger team to present their findings. Then you might have another hypothesis that is assigned to the designers that says that an infinite scrolling based app UI will be engaging and understandable. So the designers, sort of before they even receive information from the data scientists about building this high quality model, actually go out and try to make sort of some conclusive statement about whether that facet, the infinite scroll based UI, will actually be the best solution for this problem, that it'll engage users, that it'll present information in the best way. And then finally, you might have another hypothesis that is again, more focused on data science, that says our prediction algorithm creates sufficiently creative recommendations. So you might take an existing algorithm, see whether it itself creates sufficiently creative recommendations before you've worked with the team that creates this high quality model. So you're sort of allowing these multiple hypotheses to flow in the team. And as you update them, you slowly end up progressively sort of building the solution. So that's just a taste of what Lingua Franca can provide to your organization. It's obviously a complex Agile methodology of its own that requires its own training and its own understanding. So while I wasn't able to give sort of a really clear look at it today, I assure you that there's a lot of thinking that has gone behind this. And of course, the resources for Lingua Franca are all available online, that you can look at them yourself at the URL that I've presented below. So thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope that